They told you it was just a drink, a social lubricant, liquid courage, a way to unwind after a hard day. They told you it was sophisticated, mature, that abstaining made you boring, uptight, not fun. They didn't tell you about the etymology, about what the word alcohol actually means, about why every major spiritual tradition throughout history has warned against it with such intensity that they made it forbidden. The word alcohol comes from the Arabic al-KUHL, which doesn't mean drink, it means body-eating spirit. Al-KUHL, the spirit that consumes. In ancient alchemy, alcohol was used to extract the soul or essence from the body. It was quite literally called the spirit, because alchemists believed it captured the spiritual essence of whatever it touched. But here's what they discovered, and what's been suppressed, sanitized, and ridiculed out of modern consciousness. Alcohol doesn't just affect your body, it doesn't just impair your brain, it affects your soul, your energy field, your spiritual protection, your connection to higher consciousness. And it opens doors that were meant to stay closed. In the next 60 minutes, I'm going to show you what really happens when you drink, not the liver damage or the hangover. Though we'll touch on that, I'm talking about what happens to your aura, your energy body, your spiritual defenses. I'm going to show you why shamans across every culture used alcohol as a tool for spirit possession, why exorcists won't work with people who are intoxicated, why recovering addicts consistently report that getting sober felt like waking up from a decades-long nightmare. And I'm going to show you the conspiracy, the deliberate, systematic campaign to normalize, glorify, and monetize a substance that ancient wisdom keepers universally recognized as spiritually catastrophic. This isn't anti-alcohol propaganda. This isn't religious fundamentalism. This is information that's been systematically hidden, because when you understand what alcohol actually does to your consciousness, you'll never look at a drink the same way again. You ready? Because we're about to expose the biggest open secret in human civilization. Let's begin. Let's start with the word itself. Alcohol. Most people assume it's just a modern term for fermented beverages, but trace it back and you find something much darker. The Arabic AL-KUHL originally referred to a metallic powder, specifically a refined powder of antimony used as eyeliner. The refinement process was so precise, so purifying, that the term began to represent the extraction of essence itself. Alchemists adopted this term when they discovered distillation, the process of extracting the spirit from fermented material. They called it alcohol because it was the essence, the concentrated soul of the substance. But here's where it gets interesting. The same alchemists who named it also warned against consuming it. They recognized that a substance powerful enough to extract essence could also extract your essence, could dissolve the boundaries that protect your soul. Medieval grimoires, magical texts used by practitioners of ceremonial magic, consistently list alcohol as a tool for opening the gates, for weakening the veil between dimensions, for making a person susceptible to spiritual influence. Not randomly, deliberately. Alcohol was used intentionally to make someone's energy field permeable. The word spirits for alcoholic beverages isn't cute marketing, it's accurate description. When you drink, you're ingesting something that invites spirits in. Every major spiritual tradition, and I mean every one, has explicit prohibitions or warnings about alcohol. Islam, complete prohibition. Alcohol is khamr, that which covers the mind. Muslims are taught that intoxication breaks the connection to Allah and opens the door to shaitan, Satan, negative entities. Hinduism, the Vedas warn against madhya, intoxicating drinks. Yoga practitioners are taught that alcohol disrupts the nadis, the energy channels, and weakens the chakras. It's specifically said to damage the Ajna chakra, third eye, cutting you off from higher perception. Buddhism, the fifth precept explicitly forbids intoxication because it leads to heedlessness, the inability to maintain mindful awareness. Buddhist monks won't even use alcohol for medicinal purposes. In Christianity, while not prohibited, there are over 75 warnings about drunkenness in the Bible. Ephesians 5:18. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. The contrast is deliberate. You're either filled with the Holy Spirit or with intoxicating spirits. Judaism, The Talmud teaches that wine was the fruit eaten in the Garden of Eden, the source of humanity's fall. Drunkenness is consistently associated with spiritual degradation. Indigenous traditions, shamans across cultures recognize alcohol as a spirit-calling tool. The Mazatec people of Mexico won't conduct mushroom ceremonies if participants have consumed alcohol within days. They say it attracts malicious entities. Notice a pattern. These aren't primitive superstitions. These are sophisticated spiritual technologies developed by cultures who understood consciousness at levels we're only beginning to rediscover. They all saw the same thing. Alcohol compromises your spiritual integrity. To understand what alcohol does spiritually, you need to understand your energy field, what esoteric traditions call the aura or the etheric body. You are not just physical flesh. You're surrounded by layers of electromagnetic energy that extend several feet beyond your body. This isn't mysticism. It's measurable. Biofield imaging, Kirlian photography, and even mainstream science now acknowledges that humans generate electromagnetic fields. Your aura has several functions. 1. Information processing. It senses energy before your physical senses do. That gut feeling about someone? That's your aura reading theirs. 2. Protection. It acts as a buffer between you and external energies, both physical and non-physical. A strong aura keeps negative influences at a distance. 3. Spiritual connection. Your upper chakras and outer aural layers connect you to higher consciousness, guides, and your higher self. When your aura is intact and strong, you're protected, energetically sovereign, connected to your intuition and spiritual guidance. Alcohol dissolves this protection. Clairvoyants who can see auras consistently report the same phenomenon. When someone drinks, their aura fragments, holes appear, the edges blur, the protective barrier weakens. One psychic described it this way. Imagine a mosquito net with holes torn in it. Normally, it keeps the bugs out, but once there are gaps, anything can get through. That's what alcohol does to your energy field. And once those gaps exist, you become susceptible to influence, both from other people's energy and from non-physical entities. Here's what most people don't know. Shamans, exorcists, and spiritual practitioners across traditions use alcohol deliberately to facilitate spirit possession, not as a party trick, as a technology. In Haitian voodoo, rum is offered to the lower spirits and consumed by practitioners specifically to make possession easier. The alcohol weakens the person's will, making it simpler for the spirit to ride them. In Afro-Brazilian traditions like candomblé, alcohol is used similarly to thin the veil so spirits can enter more easily. Even in European ceremonial magic, practitioners would consume wine during evocation rituals to make themselves more permeable to spiritual influence. Now, here's the terrifying part. This mechanism doesn't require intention. You don't have to be performing a ritual. You don't have to believe in spirits. You don't have to want possession. The mechanism is automatic. Alcohol weakens your defenses whether you're aware of it or not. Catholic exorcists have protocols around this. They won't perform exorcisms on intoxicated individuals. Why? Because the alcohol makes the possession stronger. It gives the entity more access, more control. Father Gabriele Amorth, one of the Vatican's most famous exorcists, stated explicitly in interviews, demons prefer people who are intoxicated. It makes their work easier. And it's not just demonic possession in the horror movie sense. It's subtle influence, energetic attachment, the slow erosion of your own willpower and consciousness, replaced bit by bit with something that isn't you. Recovering alcoholics often describe the phenomenon of the voice, a presence that would tell them to drink, that felt separate from their own thoughts, a presence that would fight viciously when they tried to quit. That's not metaphor, that's testimony. Let's talk about the physical mechanism, because the spiritual effects are built on the physiological foundation. When you consume alcohol, it crosses the blood-brain barrier within minutes. Once there, it affects multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously. GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. Alcohol enhances GABA, your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. This creates the relaxation, the lowered inhibitions, the sense of ease. but it also suppresses the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment, impulse control, and higher reasoning. This isn't just getting tipsy. It's literally shutting down the part of your brain that makes you human, that connects you to higher consciousness. Glutamate. Alcohol suppresses glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter crucial for memory formation. This is why people black out. Your brain stops recording. You're conscious, acting, speaking, but nobody's home. No higher self, no witness, just autopilot. Dopamine. Initially, alcohol floods your system with dopamine, the reward chemical. This creates the pleasurable sensation, but chronic drinking depletes dopamine receptors, meaning you need more alcohol to feel normal and can't feel pleasure without it. You become chemically dependent on an external substance for internal peace. That's not just addiction, it's spiritual hijacking. Serotonin. Alcohol temporarily boosts serotonin, the happiness chemical, which is why people feel euphoric when drinking, but it crashes afterward, leading to depression and anxiety. The next day, guilt, shame, and emotional darkness. That's depleted serotonin. But here's what neuroscience is just beginning to discover. Your neurotransmitters aren't just chemical messengers, they're consciousness modulators. They determine not just your mood, but your level of awareness, your connection to intuition, your ability to access higher states. When you flood your system with alcohol, you're not just getting drunk, you're chemically severing yourself from your higher consciousness. The pineal gland, the third eye, the seat of the soul. This tiny pine cone-shaped gland in the center of your brain has been revered by mystics for thousands of years. The Egyptians knew about it. Descartes called it the seat of the soul. Hindu traditions identify it with the Ajna chakra, the center of intuition and spiritual sight. Modern science is catching up. We now know the pineal gland produces DMT, dimethyltryptamine, the molecule associated with mystical experiences, regulates circadian rhythms and sleep cycles, contains photoreceptor cells similar to those in your eyes, plays a role in consciousness that we're only beginning to understand. The pineal gland is your biological antenna to higher consciousness. It's literally your connection to the spiritual realm, and alcohol calcifies it. Studies show that alcohol consumption increases calcium deposits in the pineal gland, essentially hardening it and reducing its function. The more you drink, the more calcified it becomes. Fluoride does this too, by the way, which is why it's in the water supply. But that's a different video. A calcified pineal gland means reduced intuition, difficulty accessing dreams, suppressed spiritual experiences, disconnection from your higher self, inability to perceive subtle energies. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented biology. Alcohol literally damages the organ that connects you to higher consciousness. Everything is frequency. You've heard this before, probably dismissed it as new age nonsense, but it's physics. Your body operates on electrical impulses. Your neurons fire electrically. Your heart has an electromagnetic field measurable several feet away. Your brain produces electromagnetic waves, alpha, beta, theta, delta, that correspond to different states of consciousness. You are quite literally a frequency being. Higher consciousness operates at higher frequencies. Meditation, prayer, deep presence, these raise your frequency. You become more coherent, more aligned, more connected to source. Lower consciousness operates at lower frequencies. Fear, anger, depression, these lower your frequency. You become more chaotic, more disconnected, more vulnerable. Alcohol is one of the lowest frequency substances you can put in your body. Researchers using biofield imaging and frequency measurement tools have documented that alcohol consumption immediately drops a person's frequency. One study using gas discharge visualization, GDV technology, showed that a person's biofield after consuming alcohol looked similar to someone experiencing extreme stress or illness. The aura contracts, the energy becomes muddy, the frequency drops, and here's why this matters. Like attracts like. Your frequency determines what you attract, both in physical reality and in non-physical reality. When you lower your frequency through alcohol, you become a match for lower frequency entities, experiences, and people. You literally cannot access higher guidance because you're no longer on that channel. It's like trying to tune into FM radio while your receiver is stuck on AM. The signal is still broadcasting, but you can't receive it. Let's talk about what happens in that lowered frequency state. Let's talk about attachment. Dr. Edith Fiore, clinical psychologist, documented hundreds of cases of what she called spirit attachment, where the energy of a deceased person or non-physical entity attaches to a living person's energy field. Her findings, published in The Unquiet Dead, showed a consistent pattern. The majority of attachments occurred when the person's defenses were down, and the number one factor, intoxication, alcohol, drugs, trauma, surgery, these create openings in the aura, and when there's an opening, something can move in. Dr. William Baldwin, another researcher in this field, found that approximately 70% of people he worked with had some form of entity attachment, and the vast majority reported that the attachment occurred during or shortly after substance use, especially alcohol. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like medieval superstition, but consider this. Alcoholics Anonymous has a 75-year track record of success with a program that explicitly includes spiritual components. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Why does acknowledging a higher power help with sobriety? Because addiction isn't just chemical. It's spiritual. There's something that takes hold that's beyond the physical craving. Ask any recovering alcoholic about the voice, the presence they felt compelling them to drink, the sense that something else was driving their actions. Many describe getting sober as an exorcism, as the removal of something that had been puppeting them. Let's be clear. Most people who drink aren't possessed in the Hollywood sense. No head spinning, no demonic growling. That's the extreme end of a spectrum. Think of entity attachment as a continuum. Level 1. Energetic influence. Something touches your field. Brief, minor. Like walking through a spider web. Annoying, but not dangerous. You might feel off for a few hours, then it passes. Level 2. Energetic attachment. Something latches onto your field. It doesn't control you, but it influences you. Subtle cravings, intrusive thoughts, emotional volatility that doesn't feel like yours. This can last days, weeks, or months. Level 3. Partial possession. Something has significant influence. You still have control most of the time, but there are moments, especially when drinking, where you act in ways that don't align with your values. You say things you don't mean. You hurt people you love. And afterward, you genuinely don't understand why you did it. Level 4. Full possession rare. Extreme. This is what exorcists deal with. The person's consciousness is suppressed, and another entity is operating through their body. This almost always requires prolonged substance abuse, severe trauma, or intentional invitation. Most people who drink regularly are operating somewhere between level 1 and level 3. They're not possessed, but they're not fully themselves either, and they don't realize it, because the influence is subtle, because it happens gradually, because everyone else is doing it too, so it seems normal. That's the insidious part. The collective agreement that being under the influence of spirits is just fine, normal, celebrated. Let's talk about why you don't know any of this. Let's talk about the systematic campaign to normalize, glorify, and monetize spiritual poison. The global alcohol industry is worth over $1.5 trillion annually. That's trillion with a T. It's one of the most profitable industries on the planet. And it's protected, defended, promoted at every level of society. Think about it. Every celebration includes alcohol. Every business meeting defaults to the bar. Every date involves drinks. Every stress response is, I need a drink. Every social gathering centers around alcohol. Not drinking makes you the weird one. The one who has to explain. The one who gets pressured, mocked, questioned. This didn't happen by accident. In the 1920s, after Prohibition ended, the alcohol industry faced a problem. They'd spent decades being demonized. They needed to rebuild their image. Enter Edward Bernays, the father of modern propaganda. He literally wrote the book, Propaganda. Bernays pioneered the use of psychological manipulation to shape public perception. He was hired by tobacco companies to make smoking socially acceptable for women. He succeeded. He was hired by corporations to sell products by associating them with emotional desires rather than practical needs. He revolutionized advertising. And he worked with the alcohol industry to normalize drinking as sophisticated, mature, and essential to social success. The campaign was genius. Associate alcohol with success, executives drinking scotch. Link it to romance, wine and candlelight. Connect it to masculinity, beer commercials. Tie it to sophistication, wine culture. Make abstinence seem puritanical, boring, weak. It worked. Within a generation, drinking became not just acceptable, but expected. Watch any movie. Count how many scenes feature alcohol. Watch any TV show. Notice how problems are solved over drinks. Listen to music. Notice how many songs glorify intoxication. This isn't organic. It's product placement. It's psychological conditioning. The alcohol industry spends billions on marketing. But the most insidious advertising isn't the commercials. It's the cultural saturation. James Bond drinks martinis. Every detective show features the bar scene. Every sitcom has the wine-drinking moment. Every drama shows characters working through problems with whiskey. You're being programmed to associate alcohol with intelligence, intellectuals drinking wine; courage, liquid courage; relaxation, wind down with a drink; social success, parties require alcohol; emotional processing, drinking away pain; and the inverse programming. People who don't drink are boring, uptight. Religious fundamentalists, recovering addicts, implying they have a problem, not that they've found a solution. Antisocial. This creates peer pressure without anyone having to say a word. The culture itself enforces the norm. Here's where it gets really dark. The same pharmaceutical companies that profit from treating alcohol-related diseases, liver damage, heart disease, neurological disorders, also have financial ties to the alcohol industry. It's a perfect business model. Sell the poison, alcohol. Sell the treatment, pharmaceuticals for alcohol-related illness. Sell the addiction treatment, rehab facilities, addiction medications. Every step generates profit. And when research emerges showing the harmful effects of alcohol, it's suppressed, discredited, or buried under industry-funded counter-research. This happened with tobacco for decades. The industry funded studies showing smoking was safe. They hired scientists to create doubt. They lobbied politicians to prevent regulation. The alcohol industry uses the exact same playbook. Studies showing health benefits of alcohol, often funded by the industry. The one glass of red wine is healthy narrative. Trace back to industry-sponsored research. Independent research consistently shows there is no safe level of alcohol consumption. Even moderate drinking increases cancer risk, brain damage, and mortality. But that research doesn't get mainstream coverage because the industry controls the narrative. But the conspiracy goes deeper than corporate profit. There's a spiritual dimension to this suppression. Throughout history, institutions that wanted to control populations knew a secret. Keep people disconnected from their spiritual power, and they're easier to control. The Roman Empire used bread and circuses. Keep the masses fed and entertained, and they won't revolt. Modern control is more sophisticated. Keep the masses intoxicated, distracted, and spiritually disconnected, because a spiritually awakened population is dangerous to control systems. People who are connected to their intuition, their higher consciousness, their inner guidance, they can't be manipulated. They see through propaganda. They question authority. They recognize systems of control. But a population that's numbing itself with alcohol, disconnected from intuition, dulling higher consciousness, opening themselves to external influence, that population is manageable. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is historical pattern. Look at what colonizers did to indigenous populations worldwide. Introduce alcohol. It destroyed their spiritual traditions faster than any military force could. Native American communities, Australian Aboriginal peoples, African tribes, Pacific Islanders. The pattern is identical. Introduce alcohol, destroy spiritual connection, control becomes easy. And it worked, because alcohol doesn't just poison the body, it severs the connection to ancestral wisdom, to spiritual practice, to higher consciousness. That's the conspiracy, not a shadowy cabal meeting in secret, though there are board meetings where these things are discussed. It's a system that has recognized, either consciously or unconsciously, that keeping people spiritually disconnected serves power structures, and alcohol is one of the most effective tools for maintaining that disconnection. Let me share what people report when they quit drinking, not the physical benefits, though those are significant. The spiritual transformation. Testimony 1. I stopped drinking 3 years ago. Within 6 months, I started having vivid dreams again. Dreams that felt meaningful, prophetic even. I realized I hadn't really dreamed, in over a decade. The alcohol had shut off that channel completely. Testimony 2. 2 weeks after my last drink, I was meditating, and for the first time in my life, I felt presence, like something vast and loving was there with me. I started crying because I realized I'd been searching for that feeling at the bottom of every bottle, and it had been waiting for me in sobriety the whole time. Testimony 3. The voice stopped. That's the best way I can describe it. There was a voice in my head for years that would tell me I needed to drink. It was relentless. When I hit 90 days sober, I realized one day the voice was gone, completely gone. And I felt like me again for the first time since I started drinking at 15. Testimony 4. My intuition came back. I started knowing things before they happened. I'd think about someone and they'd call. I'd have a feeling about a decision and it would be right. It was like someone turned the lights back on in a part of me that had been dark for years. These aren't cherry-picked stories. These are the consistent experiences of people who quit drinking and document the spiritual transformation. So what do you do with this information? How do you reclaim your spiritual sovereignty? Step 1. Acknowledgement. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. If you drink regularly, acknowledge that it's affecting you spiritually, not just physically. You don't have to have a problem for this to apply. Even moderate drinking impacts your energy field, your frequency, your spiritual connection. Step 2. Experimentation. Try 30 days without alcohol, not as punishment, As an experiment, notice how your dreams change, how your intuition strengthens, how your energy levels shift, how your emotional clarity improves, how your spiritual practices deepen. Give yourself permission to discover what sobriety feels like before deciding whether you want to return to drinking. Step 3. Energetic clearing. If you've been drinking for years, you likely have some energetic cleanup to do. Practices that help: salt baths. Sea salt draws out negative energy. Smudging with sage or Palo Santo. Energy healing, Reiki, pranic healing, etc. Prayer or intention setting for protection and clearing. Working with a shamanic practitioner or energy healer. You're not broken, you're just energetically congested. These practices help clear what's accumulated. Step 4. Spiritual strengthening. Rebuild your aura. Strengthen your connection to higher consciousness. Daily practices. Meditation, even 10 minutes. Grounding exercises, barefoot in nature. Breathwork builds life force energy. Prayer or connection to your higher power. Visualization. Imagine your aura as a bright, protective shield. These aren't optional if you want spiritual sovereignty. These are the foundational practices that keep you connected, protected, and clear. Step 5. Community. Find others on this path. Sobriety-curious communities, spiritual development groups, people who understand that avoiding alcohol isn't about being a prude, it's about optimizing consciousness. You need support. Not because you're weak, but because you're swimming against a cultural tide. Having people who understand makes all the difference. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't about morality. This isn't about willpower. This isn't about being better than anyone. This is about consciousness, about sovereignty, about reclaiming the spiritual clarity that is your birthright. You are a divine being having a human experience. You are consciousness itself, temporarily inhabiting a physical form. And you have the right, the obligation, to protect that consciousness from anything that compromises it. Alcohol is called spirits because that's what it invites in. Spirits, entities, influences that are not you. When you drink, you're literally opening the door to your temple and saying, "Come in, take a seat, use my body, use my voice, use my energy." And most people do this unconsciously, repeatedly, for decades. Then they wonder why they feel disconnected from themselves, unable to hear their intuition, lost, purposeless, spiritually empty, like they're living someone else's life. It's because they are. Something else has been steering for so long, they forgot what it feels like to be fully themselves. Sobriety, true, conscious sobriety, is a spiritual awakening. It's the reclaiming of your vessel, the clearing of your temple, the restoration of your connection to Source. And when you experience it, when you feel what it's like to be fully present, fully conscious, fully you, you realize what you've been missing. Not the parties, not the social lubrication, not the temporary escape. What you've been missing is yourself, your higher self, your intuition, your connection to the divine, your spiritual power. That's what alcohol takes, not just your liver, not just your brain cells, your soul connection. And the beautiful truth is, you can get it back. The moment you decide to, your guides are waiting, your higher self is waiting, your full spiritual capacity is waiting. All you have to do is close the door you've been holding open. Put down the glass and remember who you really are. You are not your habits. You are not your culture's programming. You are not what the industry has told you to be. You are a sovereign spiritual being with infinite potential, and that potential is waiting for you on the other side of this decision. The question is, are you ready to meet yourself? The real you, the sober, clear, connected, powerful, protected, divinely aligned you. That version of you is waiting. It's time to come home. If this resonated, you know what it means. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not to shame them, but to offer them a truth that might set them free. And if you're struggling with alcohol, please get help, seek support. This isn't about willpower. This is about spiritual warfare, and you don't have to fight it alone. Resources are in the description. Communities are waiting. Help is available. Next video. What happens to your soul when you quit drinking? The 90-day spiritual transformation timeline. See you there. Sober, clear, and powerful. Welcome to the Hidden Voyage. Welcome home. Soul Whisperer and Soul Creator. The Hidden Voyage.